We're talking Courtland Sutton trade rumors on today's show, but first I want to get your opinion on this subject. What would you do if you were in charge? Would you trade Sutton? Would you pay Courtland Sutton more money, add a little bit more guarantee to his contract? Or would you wait it out and just hope that he returns back to the team and plays under the current contract structure? Let me get your opinion down below. It is the pinned comment, so give me a letter for which option you would choose while this intro video rolls. I woke up this morning, turned on the internet, and there it was. Everyone freaking out that Courtland Sutton is not at OTAs. The Broncos started their organized team activities earlier this week. Tomorrow, Thursday, will be the first day it is open to the media. Sean Payton has kind of put the clamps in on media accessibility at OTAs and other functions like that, while also maybe reducing the amount of outbound traffic from the team itself on social media for all of their OTAs and minicamp and just stuff of that nature. But Courtland Sutton, not present. And that has people getting concerned and worried. Now, let's just get the facts across right now. Organized team activities are voluntary. There are always a handful of veterans that do not show up to these things across all 32 teams. So this behavior is not highly unusual. Now, the motive for this is pretty clear. He's looking for a new-ish contract. Sutton only has $2 million guaranteed for 2024 and 2025. Now, he knows that he is not going to get cut in the next few weeks before the 2024 season. But in all likelihood, Courtland Sutton is looking for some more guaranteed money for 2025 so that he knows the team has good faith and good interest in bringing him back for the final year of his contract. Now, Jeremy Fowler was on SportsCenter and said that the two sides have yet to make, quote, real progress. I'm still not touching the panic button just yet. Voluntary practices, like I said, every year there's always a lot of veterans that do not show up to this stuff, and Sutton's not the only guy not showing up because of a contract-related issue. But I think the panic button could come out maybe when mandatory minicamp rolls around, because at that point, if Sutton is not there, he will be getting fined, and that's going to really show how serious he is about holding out and not showing up to required stuff and practices until he gets a new contract. And ultimately, Denver can't really afford to play this game of chicken. They need to get Courtland Sutton there sooner rather than later, because they have a new rookie quarterback that they would like to get the development rolling and clicking with his number one wide receiver. And for that reason, Denver can especially not afford to trade Courtland Sutton. And Sutton knows this. So he's probably knowing that he can, hold his breath a little bit longer than the Broncos can, because Denver needs Sutton there to give Bo Nix someone to work with and some chemistry to grow with his number one target. And Sutton also knows he can continue to hold out as long as he wants, because the Broncos aren't going to just randomly trade him in the middle of the night. That would be sabotaging their rookie quarterback, who Sean Payton needs to be successful. He convinced ownership to dump Russell Wilson and his huge contract because he had a plan in place to improve at the quarterback position with a rookie like Bo Nix. You're not going to be very successful in your rookie year if you don't have Courtland Sutton to throw to. Look at the wide receiver room after Courtland Sutton. Marvin Mims, Josh Reynolds, Tim Patrick, Brandon Johnson, rookie Troy Franklin, Lil Jordan Humphrey. I mean, I am just like everyone watching right now, very optimistic that Marvin Mims is going to have a breakout sophomore season. We saw some really good plays from him early last year. Then he was sort of relegated to special teams, but with Jerry Jeudy kind of out of the way, that opens up more snaps. And I think Marvin Mims is going to have a really strong second year in the NFL. But I would be putting my head in the sand if I didn't at least acknowledge the fact that when you look at the history books of rookie wide receivers picked rounds 1 through 3 to have less than 500 yards in their rookie season, this isn't a list of great guys that went on to have really successful years 2 and 3 of their career, right? Early to judge, but like Treylon Burks, Skyy Moore, Tyquan Thornton, didn't have spectacular year twos. Wan'Dale Robinson, David Bell, Nico Collins, Rondale Moore, Kadarius Toney, Josh Palmer, Henry Ruggs. I'm not saying all these guys were bad, but I think we can agree that a good chunk of them didn't have spectacular years too. Now, there are some exceptions, no doubt about it. I mean, four that really jumped out to me over the last, 8-9 years or so. You had Kenny Golladay, Corey Davis, Alshon Jeffrey, Randall Cobb. All four of these players had less than 500 yards in their rookie season, just like Marvin Mims. And look at what they put up the very next season. 2 out of them went over 1,000 yards. All of them had 4+ touchdowns. So it can be done to have a quiet rookie season and have a really explosive sophomore season. It's not as common as maybe we would all like for it to be, but it definitely can be done, and it's more than just a 1 to 2% chance. But the fact is, you can't trade Courtland Sutton and then bank on Marvin Mims to be one of those four guys we talked about. No, I think a successful season for Marvin Mims could look like 750 yards and 4 touchdowns. And that's perfectly fine for your number 2 wide receiver in his second year. I mean, go look at Devontae Adams' stats for his second year, and he had Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football. But when you ask Marvin Mims to have that type of production and be your number 1 wide receiver because Sutton is gone, that's a different question. And that's a very, very different scenario, and not one I want to see Bo Nix in. Now, I've got more fun facts and things like this to share, so don't go anywhere. But if you are looking for a Broncos OTAs news and rumors channel, you found the perfect one. Hit the sub button down below. Help us reach 22,100 subscribers. It's like the next notch in our march to 23,000 subs. Now, of course, there is this guy named Tim Patrick who is on Denver's roster that you might have heard of. He comes off of, unfortunately, back-to-back brutal season-ending injuries. Last time we saw him, Teddy Bridgewater was the quarterback. It was 2021, 734 yards that season. Patrick is ultimately the wild card. Like, if Tim Patrick comes back this year and has 734 yards and 5 touchdowns, that would be a huge win for the Broncos because now, even if they were to move on from Courtland Sutton, you got Mims, Patrick, and Josh Reynolds, who maybe all put together 600 to 800 yard seasons, and that would be very adequate for Bo Nix. Not spectacular, but not something that's going to completely derail his rookie season and his development. But I'm not also going to bank on Tim Patrick. Like, coming off an Achilles and an ACL tear all in the span of 24 months, that is really tough for any athlete to come back from. So at this point, I feel like Tim Patrick to the Broncos is just like house money. If he's a huge asset and a big producer for this team, terrific. If he's not, if that was your plan, that was a bad plan. So then you got Josh Reynolds, who last year for the Detroit Lions had 608 yards, 5 touchdowns, one of his better seasons. Back with the Rams, he had a few good years early on and then kind of dipped a little bit between the Tennessee Titans and then his start in Detroit. But my prediction is Josh Reynolds is going to give you somewhere between 350 to 600 yards. He had a little over 600 yards last year in an extremely pass-happy offense with a veteran quarterback like Jared Goff. I would be a little surprised if he has the same type of production in year 1 of Bo Nix's career. I think Josh Reynolds is somewhere between 500 to 600 yards most likely. But the bottom line is you have to keep Courtland Sutton for Bo Nix. You just cannot afford to move on from the only real proven wide receiver in this entire organization when you've got a rookie quarterback. You just cannot do that to Bo Nix. You're going to set his development back. You have to keep the offense on the field. You got to give Bo Nix those confidence boosters. You got to give him a guy that he can throw the ball up to, and Sutton comes down with it for a touchdown. Broncos win. Nix has a smile on his face, and everyone's pumped up moving on to the next week. Not that entire situation playing out, but except, no offense, Brandon Johnson doesn't come down with it. Denver loses, and Bo Nix is sad. And you're sad. And everyone's sad. Don't do that. Avoid that by keeping Courtland Sutton. Now, this next graphic took me a long time to make, and I went back to 2010 all the way to the present. And what I looked at was every single rookie quarterback drafted in round 1 who went into their new locker room, looked around, and did not see a single wide receiver with 750 plus yards in a single season. Only 2 quarterbacks walked into a situation like that. Dwayne Haskins with the Washington Redskins in 2019 and Brandon Weeden with the Cleveland Browns in 2012. Fair to say that neither quarterback was very successful in the NFL. So no, do not trade Courtland Sutton away. Because if you trade Sutton away, there will be a third name added to this list. It'll be Bo Nix walking into his locker room as a rookie in training camp right before week 1, looking around like the guy from Pulp Fiction, John Travolta, I don't remember his character name, going, where are all the 750 at least yard receivers in a single season? Oh, there's none. And I'm in this crowd here. That's a bad crowd to be in. Don't put him in this crowd. So would you trade Courtland Sutton? Give me a yes or give me a no. I'm typing in for no. Ask me a few months ago, maybe a different answer. But the moment you drafted Bo Nix and traded Jerry Jeudy away, that to me cemented Courtland Sutton in Denver for 2024. Now, if you disagree and you still want to trade Courtland Sutton and you're wondering at least what you could get for him, I think this is a rough representation of what a fair trade could look like. The Steelers are all in with Russell Wilson this year. They kind of remind me of like the Colts when they kept going from one veteran quarterback to another. Like the Colts had like 5 or 6 straight years with a different starting quarterback every single week 1. So maybe they want to give Russell Wilson a familiar face, and it's a 3rd-round pick to Denver, and it's Sutton and a 6 going over to Pittsburgh, because I don't think you're going to get a straight-up 3rd for Courtland Sutton. You probably got to send something back, so that way the Steelers aren't out any draft capital. They just lose the draft capital value. All right, that will do it for us on this edition of the Broncos Breakdown. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, leave us a comment, give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see everyone later.